But now I want basically you to hear the question that he's going to ask Tariq Nasheed.
Well, she was basically saying that maybe you could learn from the foundational Black British. They have 10 times the lower homicide rate, greater educational attainment. And she's curious, like, what is holding back Black Americans today when people from these third world countries can come over and excel?
Excel where?
In education, Nigerian Americans, for instance, most degrees per capita, higher household incomes. So, there's a lot of anti-Teva babble that you do. And why don't you, look up to the Tevas and, wow, these are, you may be foundational Black Americans, but you could also look at them kind of as role models.
What's good, YouTube? This is KB LaFleur. You can call me KB. Welcome back to another video, man. We got something pretty good, man. We got something pretty good, man. This is a pretty good discussion. We got Tariq Nasheed going against one of your white supremacists, an Australian white supremacist, right? Now, once again, man, this video is brought to you by O'Shea Duke Jackson, right? Where he pretty much broke this down. That's where I saw this from. And man, guys, let me tell you, this is pretty lit, right? This is pretty lit, man. And I just wanted to give my 2 cents. Right? I just want to give my 2 cents. But for the most part, man, look, before we even get into this, do me a huge favor. Leave me a like, leave me a comment, and leave me a subscribe. So, of course, they have a topic, right? They have a discussion about why are Nigerians coming over here into America and excelling and are more educated than your African Americans, right? And this is what your white supremacist is asking, Tariq Nasheed. Right now, Tariq Nasheed gives a great response. Right now, also for me, I would say, listen, just culturally wise, just off of culture wise, right? Culturally, when you see your immigrants come over here into America, right? And I'm talking about in the past. I'm not talking about now, but in the past, right? Because of course people now are going to say, well, you have immigrants coming over here and doing this to people and doing that. I mean, once again, that's why I said, before Kamala Harris and Joe Biden started to do all of this extra stuff, allowing them to come down here. In the past, when you had people who came over here, they came over here to have a good life. They came over here to have a restart. So this is where you see a lot of your Hispanics, once again, working. You see a lot of your Hispanics, man, they can do pretty much anything. You need to cut grass, you can sit over here, build up a house. They can do all of that because they're tight like that, right? And when they come over here, they're coming over here on a mission. I need to make sure I can have a stable foundation for my family, right? Versus where we are already here, we're comfortable. When you already have your Hispanics that are already over here, that are already comfortable, that has already made a life, and they made it so easy to the point where you can go to LA, you have your gangs, man, where Hispanics are Crips and Bloods and all of that stuff. But when you look at their parents, and I'm talking about their parents probably who had to fight to get on their way over here, I'm pretty sure a lot of them weren't in gangs. But once again, once you didn't have kids and you're in an environment for so long, you are a product of your environment. You have kids. Your kids don't know, or your kids doesn't have to live through what you had to go through out there in Mexico or in Venezuela or whatever, to the point where you had to sit over here and migrate over here. But now the same people who migrated over here, right, who are taking life seriously, they are maybe in the hood. They can only afford to live in the hood. They may have a child. The child is a product of their environment, being around other kids that are in the hoods, sitting over here taking up bad habits. Right. On one hand, you're having your parents say, hey, man, this is how you should want to live your life. We didn't come over here for you to squander nothing. So we need to take this stuff seriously. And then on the other hand, you have your vices. You have your wants and needs, right? Where you're like, I can get all of that over here with my friends, right? My American friends, right? Who has been here for so long, right? So now not only am I in my culture, but I also want to be a part of this culture. I mean, once again, so that's my biggest thing. But let's go ahead and jump into the video.
But now I want basically you to hear the question that he's going to ask Tariq Nasheed?
Well, she was basically saying that maybe you could learn from the foundational Black British. They have 10 times the lower homicide rate, greater educational attainment. And she's curious, like, what is holding back Black Americans today when people from these third world countries can come over and excel?
Excel where?
In education, Nigerian Americans, for instance, most degrees per capita, higher household incomes. So, there's a lot of anti-Teva babble that you do. And why don't you, look up to the Tevas and, wow, these are, you may be foundational Black Americans, but you could also look at them kind of as role models.
Well, the thing is, just because they're non-FBA, that doesn't make them a tether. I'm very congratulatory to some of our Nigerian brothers and sisters who get their education game popping. More power to them. When they come here and try to say what you're saying, that's tetherish because you over here because we made a lane for you. So that's a different thing. The real issue is you and them birth rates, Dr. Davinsky, and you getting you a bed wench. Are you trying to save them white supremacist genes because you couldn't find a white woman with stronger genes?
And now Tariq makes a great point. Right now, he says that, hey, well, you know what? Right, because the guy asks, why don't you really look up to the people? Why don't you look up to these Nigerians? Right. So he's saying, well, when they come over here and they start talking about the stuff that you're talking about, right, what you heard though, what the Supremacist said, right, we created a lane for them. Right. Let's just say if we weren't already down here, if they brought Nigerians down here, they would have went through the same things we went through. So they had to create a lane. Let's just say vice versa. It wasn't we were the Africans and I guess Nigerians. They took our spots or whatever. Right. They went through the stuff that we went through. Right. So if we coming over here, we didn't have to go through what they went through, or better terms, or better yet, let's just say Nigerians out there and they have it better than we do down here. Right, we're getting discriminated against, yada yada yada, this, that, and the third, yada yada yada. We want to escape America to go to Nigeria to have a better life. That's all that is, right? So when we go over there, they created the lane for us to be able to come into their home, right? To be able to come into their home and not have to accept all, and not have to take all of the BS, right? They pretty much transition to an easier life. Same thing for them. They transition over here where we had to take all of the blunt force, all of the brute force, pretty much take everything before we could get to where we are at today. Now, I'm not even saying Nigeria is a bad place. I'm not saying Nigeria is a bad place. But what I am saying is, just going to his point, we've created a lane for them to have it easier. We've created a lane for them to be able to come here and, be able to have the education, right? But once again, it's also backed by what they are willing to do, what they want to do. And once again, they want to come down here and they're on a mission. They want to prove that, hey, well, you know what, we can fit in society and we understand that we are different. So guess what? Hey, we want to work as hard as possible to get in the best position, right? To get into the best position. But I also like how the supremacists try to make it seem as if we have issues with Nigerians, as if we have issues with them excelling, as if we had issues with them being able to come over here and do better than us in some areas. I cannot get the term, right? I cannot get the term, and hopefully somebody could put it down below. But you pretty much, it's almost like you have two allies. You have two allies, and you have somebody here trying to say, hey, well, it pretty much trying to instigate, hey, well, why do y'all African Americans have an issue with Nigerians when we don't have an issue with them being educated? We don't have an issue with them excelling in life. That's what we all want, right? That's what we all want. But hey, once again, you got to throw that question out there to try to say, hey, well, you know what? You have an issue. Why can't you be like them? And that's where you try to create division amongst one another. You can't do that, right? You can't do that because once again, we don't have an issue with them. But hey, once again, that's what those kinds of people like to do, right? But I just like to put my 2 cents in because I definitely think that a lot of people, if we want to ask that question, like actually think about it, right? We are comfortable. African Americans are comfortable where we are at today, right? Does that mean it's good? No. Does that mean it's bad? No, right? But we are comfortable, right? Yeah, people in the hood, they are cool with being in the hood. That's your prime example. Versus a Nigerian coming over here, he like, man, listen, I'm trying to have a good life so I can have a good life for my family. right? So we're on 2 different levels, right? We're on 2 different levels. We could be both in the same hoods. We could be both in the same hood, but we have 2 different missions. We have 2 different backgrounds. So that's just my opinion. Do me a huge favor, leave me a like, leave me a comment, and leave me a subscribe.